Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting for the Kern County Planning Commission, November 14th, 2024. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Ashley?
Here.
Commissioner Dunbar? Commissioner Nance?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver? Commissioner Skidmore?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Slayton? Here.
Thank you. Item B, commission member announcements or reports. I do have one. I'd like to call together the nominating committee before next December's meeting. The nominating committee will be the members that are sitting here this evening. Lucky you. So it'll be myself, Commissioner Nance, and Commissioner Ashley. Are there any other member announcements or reports? Great. We're moving on to approval of the minutes from October 24th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D, cases withdrawn and request for continuance. We have one item, number 5. Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. So as you indicated, we have one item that staff is recommending to refer back. That is CUP 13, map 10221. The applicant is the Kern County Public Works Department. And again, the staff recommendation is to refer that project back to staff. That completes the items for requested for withdrawal or continuance.
Great. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to refer item number 5 back to staff.
Second.
Do we vote on screen for that one? Okay. I can do a voice vote if you need.
Three ayes, 2 absent. Motion carries.
Thank you. Item E, consent agenda. These are items scheduled before the Planning Commission, which are being recommended for approval by the staff, and the applicant has been informed of any special conditions and has no objection. The hearing on these items may be expedited if no member of the commission or audience wishes to comment or ask questions on the case. Before we start, I'd like to pass over to Commissioner Nance.
Chair Skidmore, I'd like to request that consent agenda item 1 be voted on in a separate motion, as I'll be recusing myself. I'm employed by the Western States Carpenters, and I believe they've taken an action on this item.
Great. And Mr. Murphy, I believe we don't have quorum for item number 1, so we'll just be removing that from the meeting altogether, correct?
Madam Chair, that is correct. There is not a quorum to take an official action on case number 1. Therefore, it will automatically be added to your next meeting agenda, which is scheduled for December 12th, 2024. So I will not read that as part of the consent calendar.
Great. So the consent agenda now comprises of items number 2, number 3, and number 6. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Case number 2, this is CUP 33, map 23020, zone mod number 6, map 23020. Our applicant is Ryan Casper by Rita Espinoza. This project is located at 2057 Poplar Street in the Rosamond area. The request before your commission is a conditional use permit that would allow a 44-year-old manufactured home with a maximum 30-year manufactured home is permitted. Project also includes a zone modification to allow a 6-foot tall fence within the front yard setback, all on an approximately 14,234 square foot parcel that is zoned R3. The staff recommendation is to approve conditional use permit subject to the recommended conditions, approve the zone modification subject to the recommended conditions, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in your draft resolution. The next item on consent this evening is case number 3, SPA 96, map 101, zone change number 207, map 101, modification to PD numbers 27, map 101. The applicant for this project is Gerardo Maya Sands by Porter and Associates. This project is located on the south side of Rosedale Highway, approximately 690 feet west of Nord Avenue in unincorporated Bakersfield. There are 3 actions before your commission this evening on this item. The first is an amendment of the land use designation of the Western Rosedale specific plan from IRA to GC on 4.85 acres, a change in zone classification from C2PD to M1PD, and from A1 to M1PD, or a more restricted district on 3.99 acres. And then the project includes a modification to precise development plan number 27, map 101, to change the permitted uses from a 5,000 square foot and a 2,000 square foot general retail use to a banquet hall with accessory storage, and to expand the total PD plan boundary to 4.85 acres, all on 2 parcels of record. The staff recommendation is to advise your commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors to adopt resolution and recommended findings, approving amendment to the land use element of the Western Rosedale specific plan as requested, adopt resolution, recommended findings, and enact ordinance approving the zone change as requested, and adopt recommended findings and approve modification to PD plan number 27, map 101, in accordance with the recommended conditions of approval, all set forth in the attached draft resolution. And finally, the last item on consent this evening is case number 6. This is zone change case number 6, map 12432. Our applicant is Stephen Ernest by Nelm Surveying. This project is located on the south side of East McKee Road, approximately 600 feet east of South Union Avenue in the unincorporated Bakersfield area. The request is a change in zone classification from E2 1/2 RS to E1 RS, or a more restrictive district, on 2.51 acre parcel. The staff recommendation is to advise your commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors to approve the zone changes requested, enact ordinance, and adopt the suggested findings to become effective upon recordation of any final parcel map as set forth in the attached draft resolution. That completes the reading of the consent calendar this night.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Are there any members of the public who would like to remove any items off of consent? Item number 2, number 3, or number 6? Great. What item would you like to remove? Number 3. Any other items aside from number 3? Looking to the commissioners, any other items besides number 3? Great, so we will hear number 3 in its regularly scheduled order during public hearing, and we are now voting on items number 2 and number 6. I'll entertain a motion.
I would motion that we approve items 2 and 6 on the consent agenda as proposed.
Second.
We'll vote on screen.
3 ayes, 2 absent, the motion carries.
Are there any notice of rights to appeal, Mr. Murphy, on those items?
There is, Madam Chair. Case number 2 is final before your commission. So for projects where the Planning Commission action is final, those actions are subject to an appeal to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. That appeal may be filed at the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department, located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $562 on forms we have available at the department and on our department website. If no appeal is received, the action of your commission is final. That appeal must be filed within 14 days from and including the date of this hearing.
Thank you. On to item F, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on this agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record before making your presentation. Seeing none, we will move on to public hearings. And our first item is now item number 3. I will pass it over to Mr. Murphy, and then I know the team is still settling.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. We have Ms. Anjanette Simon and Ms. Sarah Eichenhorst. They were the staff that processed this project, and I believe they will be making a presentation this evening on this item.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Skidmore, Ms. Eichenhorst, the Planner 3, who prepared and processed this project, will give a brief summary of this project, and then if anybody has any questions, we'll go from there. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Skidmore and Commissioners. The proposal before your commission is an amendment of the land use designation of the Western Rosedale Specific Plan from RIA to GC, and a change in zone classification from C2 PD, General Commercial, Precise Development Combining, and A1, Limited Agriculture, to M1 PD, Light Industrial, Precise Development Combining. And, as previously stated, a modification to Precise Development Plan number 27, map 101, to change the permitted uses that are currently on site from a 5,000 square foot and 2,000 square foot general retail use to a banquet hall with accessory storage. Further details of the proposed modifications and requests have been outlined in the staff report. The applicant this evening is Mr. Gerardo Maya Sainz by Porter and Associates, and the project site is located on the south side of Rosedale Highway, approximately 690 feet west of Nord Avenue in unincorporated Bakersfield. The proposed project site is currently developed with the 2 general retail buildings. To the north is Rosedale Highway with a residential development, and it consists of single-family dwellings and accessory structures. West of the site is developed with a truck and trailer rental and vehicle towing business. And to the south and east of the project site is agriculturally developed. The 2 existing general retail warehouse buildings were approved on April 20th, 2017. by Precise Development Plan number 27 and were constructed in 2018. There is also a contractor storage yard within this project boundary that is an approved legal nonconforming use of the property that has been in operation since 1994. More details of the history of the site have been included in the staff report. During the case notification period, staff received various comments from county departments and outside agencies, as well as a comment letter from a neighbor across Rosedale Highway. The neighbor described concerns about the proposal, which included disruption of neighboring atmosphere and increased noise, specifically noting concerns over sounds carrying across Rosedale Highway and disrupting the existing homes. In response to these concerns, staff advises recommended conditions of approval have been included within the requested Precise Development Plan modification that include various sound restriction conditions, including mandatory cease times, requiring sound to be completely enclosed within the banquet hall building, and use of directional speakers, which would be required to be pointed away from nearby residential. Also, staff would like to note that the applicant was required to do a traffic generation analysis to determine traffic counts to it, and as the requested maximum of 300 guests for this proposal for any scheduled event met within those boundaries of the trip generation and met with other similar banquet halls throughout Kern County. The banquet hall would be proposed to be utilized on the weekends, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., and the applicant would consider doing 2 to 3 events per month on this basis, with occasionally possibly requesting Thursdays for events. Staff advises that conditions have been included in the recommended conditions of approval to meet the specific timeframes that are noted and to have a maximum allowed amount of 3 events per year, or 3 events per month, sorry, for a total of 36 events per year. And with these conditions that are scheduled out, we continue to believe the proposal is consistent with the similar commercial and industrial land uses that are alongside Rosedale Highway and within about a 2-mile radius of this project. And staff believes the proposal meets the necessary findings for public health and safety, and therefore staff recommends the commission recommend the Board of Supervisors approve the specific plan amendment, zone change, and Precise Development Plan modification as requested in accordance with the recommended conditions of approval and the adopted suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolutions. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant here, and would they like to speak on behalf of the project?
Hello, my name is Freddie Porter with Porter & Associates Engineering, representing Mr. Maya. I think the staff report covered everything that we would like to say, but yes, we've agreed with the limitation of 3 events per month, and cutting off at 10 p.m. And it's an existing commercial C2 facility for commercial general retail, and we are just looking at utilizing the existing buildings and expanding the parking area to create the banquet facility. And everything will be in compliance with county ordinance as far as noise and everything else goes. And we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. You have 3 letters from other neighbors right across the street from the project that are supporting me that I'd like to present.
The clerk will grab those. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and provide comments on this item? Please make your way to the front. Please state your first and last name for the record, and we will be monitoring a 2-minute time frame.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Reniger. I live on Stagecoach, which is right across the street from this event. This thing is not needed, it's not wanted, and it's unnecessary because you have an event planning site on the corner of Stockdale and Nord. You also have an event planning site on Rosedale and Driver, right down the street. Why do we need another one right in the middle? To me, it's unnecessary and unneeded, and you're going to interrupt the residential neighborhood that's right across the street. There's no sense to it. I do not agree with this at all. It's unnecessary, it's unneeded, and it's unwanted. Directional speakers, really? No such thing. There was just a party not too long ago, a weekend ago? When the Dodgers won. Yeah, that place was absolutely insane. They have directional speakers, and you can hear it all the way down to Kratzmeyer. So directional speakers are a joke. This is not gonna work, and you're gonna put these things right in the middle of a residential area. Why? It makes no sense, sorry.
Thank you. Next speaker, please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is John Galgel. I live on 2717 Stagecoach, a couple houses north. So one of the issues that I have with this plan is I don't mind the general commercial across the street. It's a normal 8 to 5 type business and traffic comes and goes. The problem with a banquet hall is, one, the sound, the amount of traffic that comes on a 2-lane road in after hours. So 300 people and say 100 cars every other weekend, that's a lot of traffic on a 2-lane road that is not designed for turn on and off that road. That road is east and west only, and we have a small turnout into our neighborhood. The other issue is the sound. The sound will travel to our neighborhood. There's nothing that can be done about it, you know, as much as you have directional speakers, et cetera, et cetera. My wife works with many banquet halls, and they get complaints no matter what event it is that the music is too loud or it goes too late. And I assume this will be the same case because everyone likes to have fun, myself included. So one of the things that I have noticed since living there for almost 2 years is everyone uses Stagecoach and Carriage as a shortcut around Nord and Rosedale Highway intersection. So they actually drive through our neighborhood just to go a little bit further north and then east to go down Nord as you're heading north. So our roads have now become a freeway for people that don't want to turn left at the intersection or wait for traffic. Because during the evening time when you're coming home, there's a significant amount of traffic. And this will only be compounded by having a banquet hall right across the street. It's stop and go traffic. Currently, right now, east and west does not have a stoplight, north and south does. So having more people stop just partially past that stop sign is going to be a headache for people that want to go in the neighborhood. It's going to be a headache for people that want to hear the music all night. I have no problem with businesses working 8 to 5, but I do have problems when it comes into my lifestyle and my opportunity to actually relax in my own house. So thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Elena Russ-Galgel. I live on Stagecoach. The other night, the Dodgers won. It's not that I'm a Giants fan. Congratulations to them. The sound carried for a mile. I do a lot of nonprofit work with the community center downtown. There is a huge problem with drunk drivers leaving events when they rent our center. There is a large problem with speeding. There's a large problem with trash, and it's the noise. Directional speakers inside don't make a difference when it comes to a loud beat that rattles our windows. And this is from a party that was much farther away than this proposed building. Again, we used to have wild peacocks. They've all been run over and killed. We have one left. We have people who ride their horses. My daughter back there wants to take off her training wheels. I understand she's not doing that at 10 p.m. at night when people are leaving a party, but we moved out there so that we would have a quiet neighborhood. And the noise and the traffic is the absolute opposite of what we want. There are plenty of event centers in town, away from small, quiet neighborhoods like this. The Western plan was to keep this agricultural. Please don't rezone it. We like waving to the tow truck drivers from 8 to 5. We don't want parties there. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, Jean Reniger. I live on Stagecoach also. Another concern I thought about listening to the others is people going through the neighborhoods, yes, but we've already had mail stolen. This is just gonna increase, you know, the amount of people that come out there that are gonna see that we're a tucked in little community and make us even more vulnerable. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we will close the public comment and bring it back to the commission. I'll entertain any questions, comments, or concerns. Anything? I wanted to just have a few clarifications from staff. How many events per year? I know it was stated, but want to state it again. And then a little bit more information on the directional speakers, and maybe, how we go about ensuring that happens, or if we have any jurisdiction over that. Question on if we can require or had required a traffic impact study, and then if there's barriers between east and west lanes on Rosedale Highway, so there can't be crossover across Rosedale Highway into this community. And I can restate them all if needed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me try to answer some of the questions that you have from that perspective. We did do a traffic analysis, or traffic analysis was required as part of this project, and we have the Kern County Public Works Department here if you have any questions specifically for them. The determination of that is, one, given the timeframes in which events would occur, traffic impacts, there were not any traffic impacts that were identified associated with this project that would rise to a level of any significance or concern. Again, this facility would not operate during peak hour trips. It is located along Rosedale Highway specifically, and so from that perspective, staff does not believe that traffic itself is a concern, just given the nature and the time frame in which these events would occur. Regarding the number of events, as mentioned by Ms. Eichenhorst, the conditions of approval that I'm recommending 3 events per month, so 12, 24, 36 events throughout the entire year. So, and then they are very specific in terms of their days, in terms of, and Ms. Eichenhorst can correct me, I believe it was Thursday through Sunday were the only days in which events could occur. Clearly, your commission does have, if that's not exactly how the condition reads, your commission does have the ability, if you believe is appropriate, to modify and or consider any dates that events could have and or any timeframes in which the facility could operate. Regarding the directional speakers, this isn't in a closed building. I believe that was in there just in terms of some extra protections or provisions, just to make sure that the speakers were pointing inward to the property as opposed to facing outward towards the door. But again, the facility in and of itself is an enclosed facility. This CUP is not authorizing any outdoor events to occur. So, you would have the building in and of itself as part of the component in terms of where and the location in which the activities could occur within the site. I'm sorry, Madam Commissioner, did you have another component? I believe there were 4 things you had identified. I think I've only.
If there's a barrier between east and west lanes on Rosedale Highway.
I do not believe that there is. Again, I have Public Works here that they can provide any specific. Regarding some of the cut-through traffic, generally, I don't think this project has anything to do with what may or may not be occurring on Stagecoach in terms of traveling public, moving up and down roadways and things along those lines. Again, this project is located across the street. And I do believe, if Mr. Candelaria can correct me too, at one time it was Caltrans that owned this. The county now is the manager of Rosedale Highway. But again, a lot of the uses were established when the development itself was operated and the roadway was controlled by Caltrans. And then as newer development occurs in and around the areas, that highway is expected to expand to its appropriate size, and hopefully as additional development occurs, those are when improvements get implemented as enough occurs that may be able to help some of the cut-through traffic. But again, I don't believe, just based on this particular project, that this would either hinder or help any assets in terms of what's going on in terms of cut-through traffic as people are not wanting to travel down Nord or anywhere else.
So is there a way to maybe provide directional signage for when an individual exits the property?
Commissioner Skidmore through the chair. You could, I guess in terms of you just want people to travel down Rosedale Highway. Again, I'd have to look at the configuration. I don't believe anybody would be leaving the parking lot and then just going across. Can we put up the site plan just so we can look at the exact location of where the ingress and egress is for the parking lot? Because I believe it's in the back. Okay, so they would exit off of Rosedale Highway, and then the parking would take place in the back, behind the building. Again, clearly, your commission, if you believe signage is appropriate, right turn, left turn only. But again, you have to be careful. I mean, if there's a road across the street, people can directly go across the street. If there's nothing that prevents anything from that perspective. But again, just given the nature of this particular site, people, if they've lived north, and they may go that way, but, predominantly, most people would go west or east, leaving the site to go to their home or wherever they're going to.
Okay. And then my last question is, if these items are not met, what is the public able to do to kind of warn either the planning department or law enforcement if they're outside of these parameters?
Again, Madam Chair, with approval of a conditional use permit, clearly the project applicant is charged and responsible for ensuring ongoing compliance with those conditions. I guess I would ask if you were hoping to have some additional clarification regarding any of the conditions. I think it would be appropriate to make sure that our conditions are very clear at this particular stage, rather than subject to interpretation later. If you're talking about specifically having events on Mondays when, the conditions say Thursday through Friday, those are pretty easy to tell if there is or is not an event. And, clearly if that occurs, any action in the CUP can be brought back again before the commission for specific consideration. If there's some noise specifics that you want to go through, again, we can kind of look at some of that. It is a commercial designated property. Now, they are proposing to go to an M1 use, which does specify that noises, again, I don't anticipate any dust, but, any of the impacts are supposed to remain within the confines of the project boundaries. And the project site is located at 9 Rosedale Highway, which you have a number of noise associated with the traffic that goes up and forward. My recommendation would be is if you had some concerns regarding noise, we kind of hear some of the concerns. We try to draft a condition that it be measurable. Again, your commission considers proposed neighborhood events or proposed events in neighborhoods all the time. And, the ability to measure, like when someone has a wedding or something along those lines at those houses, sometimes it is tough, just because when the event occurs is usually in the evening. And so, I would just recommend if you had some ideas or specifics you'd like to see, that now would be a better time to try to incorporate those, as opposed to having us try to interpret that later on.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners?
Just a quick question about the noise. They've got to comply with the existing noise ordinance in the county already, isn't that correct, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, that is correct.
Thanks.
Is that it, Mr. Ashley? Okay. My last, and Mr. Murphy, you can tell me if this is a concern or not, and maybe Public Works can weigh in. My concern is if you're going westbound on Rosedale Highway and you're going to make a left-hand turn into this property, with the consistent flow of traffic, does that raise an issue if they're trying to turn left into the property? And do we have any engagement on how that could work?
Commissioner Skidmore, through the chair, I think that probably would be a better question answered by Mr. Candelaria of the Public Works Department.
Sorry, Mr. Candelaria.
Madam Chair, Commissioners. Based on what would be happening at that intersection, we are making them dedicate and build the full width of Rosedale Highway in that area. So with that in mind, we can actually put a two-way left turn pocket or lane in there to get traffic out of westbound so they could turn left into the property. And hopefully that left and the two-way left will help people safely go into Stagecoach or Carriage or wherever they're going. But we are making them expand it out full width at that part of Rosedale Highway. So they will have a two-way left turn hopefully in that area.
Okay. Is there any concern with now having a left turn lane of the exiting going one way or another?
As it was stated, most of the events will be after 5 o'clock. Our peak hours are 4 to 6. And it was stated in the traffic memorandum. They studied 3 other facilities within similar size of this one. And in order to answer that completely, it would require a traffic study. And it did not meet the criteria for a full-blown traffic study. And the traffic study is 50 peak hour trips. So it doesn't meet it in the AM and it doesn't meet it in the PM. It just doesn't. And so therefore the memorandum was okay. They're not going to meet the 50 peak hour PM trips in that time frame. Okay. So if you're talking about like at 10 PM, I don't know what the traffic patterns are out there.
So when you studied the traffic patterns, you studied them through peak hours?
Yes, it's from like 6 to 8 or 7 to 9 and 4 to 6. Those are the peak hours that we always look at in the mornings and in the evenings.
Is there a reason that we don't study during the hours of the business operation that's being proposed?
No, because those are usually the work hours that people are traveling on the roadways, as far as trying to get to work or trying to get home.
Okay. I don't have any other questions unless other commissioners do.
Commissioner Chair, real quick, just because you had asked, and I kind of mentioned the roadways, clearly this project applicant would rent this facility or whatever it would be. So if you believe that it was appropriate to include some sort of condition that specified that no traffic utilizing this facility to and from an event utilize, and you could stagecoach and we can mention some of the roads, at the very least, we could make sure that the applicant includes that as part of their rental agreement language, or at least they make it known. And it's then their responsibility to make sure that anybody they rent the facility to is not utilizing those roads. I do believe that if it was a noticeable difference in terms of residents driving through there and going straight to that facility, that the surrounding neighbors would be able to show us documentation of that. And I do believe, given the nature of this type of use, that it would be a pretty straightforward process for the project applicant to take whatever appropriate measures are necessary to make sure patrons utilizing the event don't use those specific roads. So if you would like, we could craft a condition that specifically specifies that the project proponent shall provide appropriate notice to any users of the facility that stagecoach and what is it? Carriage shall not be used traveling to or from the facility. I believe that would be an appropriate condition.
Okay.
How will you enforce that?
So, 1 second. That, I would love language crafted, so thank you for proposing that. Is there any dissent from fellow commissioners on that language before I commit them to that?
There isn't.
Okay.
I do have one question, though.
Of course.
And it's relative to the extent of the turning lane that you're going to require. Would you show us that on the screen?
It would be the project frontage of that
Gotcha.
whole boundary right there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you. Mr. Murphy, just because of the comments in the audience, enforcement is obviously not something under the jurisdiction of the planning department or the planning commission as far as, law enforcement. But when it comes to enforcement of the CUP, can you potentially walk through what that process looks like?
Sure, Madam Chair. So if that was a condition that was incorporated, then, clearly the enforcement comes in terms of ongoing compliance with the conditional use permit. So if those roads are being utilized for some reason and the condition specifically said that it was not, the first step usually is planning would go to the project proponent and say, hey, you have a condition that specified this was supposed to be the case. Please provide us the additional documentation and methods that you have done to ensure that this isn't occurring. At which point, we would kind of get what the applicant has been doing. They have flyers or whatever they do. Clearly if the residents would show a continued use of those roads, the option would be is we could bring the conditional use permit forward before your commission again, and the use could be revoked. So it would be an opportunity then from that perspective. The other thing that I just throw out there too, for your final consideration, is you could always, if your commission is inclined, you could always determine that maybe this should only run for 2 or 3 year period of time, and you can make it a temporary conditional use permit, at which point, after 2 or 3 years, the project proponent would be required to come back again if they wanted to continue that use, at which point you would be able to get additional comment or feedback in terms of how did it go for the first couple of years. Again, because of the nature of this building and the use as a banquet, there are improvements that would most likely be required as tenant improvements, but it's a little bit of a use that can alter and be something different if it needed to be, if ultimately the use as a banquet hall becomes not appropriate. So again, that is one other condition that your commission could consider, is instead of making it a permanent CUP that would run with the land indefinitely, that it could be a temporary CUP. If you go that route, just in our experience, 1 year is pretty tough because they might not be able to have enough events and get enough word of mouth or enough advertising to actually really get a good understanding of how often the business would operate. So I would recommend if you go a temporary use, you would go a minimum of 2 years, but I would recommend 3.
And I think a recent project was just the 36 months, and we did the same exact thing. Any other comments, recommendations for adjustments? I will entertain a motion, and then I might address a friendly amendment.
I will motion to approve with the proposed amendments that you recommended. Mr. Murphy will have to help us with that.
One clarification real quick, just because, as I mentioned, a few roads, we had someone else in the audience mention another road. I would specify those 2 roads, not including, and we would reference the additional neighborhood roads across the street. So we would include any of the roads associated with that specific neighborhood.
Perfect.
I would go ahead and second that with all the amendments.
Just for clarification, when you both mention all the amendments, is it the one that Mr. Murphy just stated or the short-term CUP?
Certainly the road amendments.
Yes.
I would consider the short term as well, if that's what you guys think. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, initially, I was seconding the road amendments specifically. If we wanted to go on to a short-term proposal, then maybe we discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
I'm considering 36-month short-term CUP,
That would make sense to me.
3 years.
So I'll amend my motion to include the prohibition of traveling on those adjacent roads, as well as a initial period of approval of 36 months.
I'd second that as well.
Motion and a second. We'll vote on screen.
Three ayes, 2 absent, motion carries.
Thank you.
Commissioner Skidmore, just so that we can be clear for those residents here, this action is not final. This was a recommendation by your commission. Therefore, this item will be duly advertised for final consideration by the Kern County Board of Supervisors, and it will include your proposed recommendation. Residents adjacent, and as part of our normal mailing list, hearing notices will go out regarding the date that the item will be considered by the Kern County Board of Supervisors.
Great. And it looks like we have another item for this area, item number 4. Mr. Murphy?
Thank you again, Commissioner Skidmore. We actually have different staff that is walking up to provide a presentation for this project. We have Ms. Katrina Slayton and Ms. Nicole Menchaca, and I believe Ms. Menchaca will be making the presentation on this item today.
Good evening, Chair Skidmore and Commissioners. The case before your commission this evening is zone classification change number 205, map 101, and precise development plan number 30, map 101, by applicant Nadeem Sarkis represented by LAV Pinnacle Engineering. The project is a zone classification change on a 13.67 acre portion of a 29 acre parcel from A1 Limited Agriculture to C2 PD General Commercial Precise Development Combining, and a precise development plan which would utilize a 5.14 acre portion of the proposed zone change project area for commercial development. The project site is located on the northeast corner of Rosedale Highway and Nord Avenue in the Rosedale area of unincorporated Bakersfield, and is currently developed with a single-family dwelling which will be demolished as part of the project proposal. The project site has a map code designation of GC, General Commercial, by the Western Rosedale Specific Plan, and is currently zoned A1 Limited Agriculture. The area immediately adjacent to the project site and surrounding vicinity include a mix of estate residential, agricultural, and commercial zoning, with uses such as small agricultural operations and medium to large estate dwellings. The proposed precise development plan would include a convenience market with fuel island, fast food restaurant with drive-through, and additional retail facilities. At the time of the project proposal was submitted, prospective tenants for the retail space included a nail shop, ice cream shop, and a retail banking center. The proposed hours of operation vary by proposed end use. However, no use on site would occur between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. Operations are proposed up to 7 days per week. Water service will be provided by Vaughn Water Company, and the applicant will be seeking approval of a sewer exception should this project be approved. The request for sewer exception has been reviewed and is supported by Kern County Public Works. However, the request would require consideration at a future hearing by the Kern County Board of Supervisors. During the project comment period, staff received 4 agency comments regarding the respective agency's review and any recommended conditions for the development. In addition, staff received 4 comments in opposition of the proposed development. Subsequent to the distribution of the staff report, staff received 1 additional agency comment from the Kern County Environmental Health Division and 1 additional letter in opposition from a resident in the project vicinity, at which time an addendum staff report was prepared. Subsequent to the preparation of the addendum staff report, an additional 3 comment letters in opposition to the project were received and stamped into the record. Copies of the correspondence received have been provided to the Commission as attachments to the staff report, and correspondence received after the distribution of the staff report are included as attachments to the addendum staff report. The 3 latest comments received after the preparation of the addendum staff report have been stamped in, and both the addendum staff report and stamped in comments have been provided to your Commission this evening. The addendum staff report contains modifications to the recommended conditions of approval, which incorporate suggested requirements from the Kern County Environmental Health Division affecting septic permitting, storage of hazardous materials, and proposed food facilities. The opposition letters received during the comment period and the additional comments received subsequent to the distribution of the original staff report cited concerns related to traffic, safety, maintenance of the site, impacts to wildlife, health effects, light and noise pollution, demand for an additional gas station, and reduced property values. In response, staff has evaluated the project proposal and consulted with affected agencies regarding traffic analysis, site drainage, and water sewer infrastructure, and staff has included recommended conditions of approval such as road improvements, drainage requirements, and agency review and permitting requirements. In addition, staff has included recommended conditions of approval incorporating development standards established by the Kern County zoning ordinance, which include but are not limited to noise ordinance standards, lighting standards, and required landscaping and design elements to ensure the safety of the proposed project and to assure the integrity of the neighborhood is maintained. A pre-construction biological survey would be required to ensure that no special species, habitat, or flora are disturbed. Commenters also noted that there was not a need for an additional gas station at the project location, as there are gas stations located within a 1.5 to 3 mile radius, and that the addition of the proposed project would likely reduce property values. Staff advises that business proposals in proximity to the same type of business do not preclude consideration of a proposal. The Western Rosedale specific plan does not identify requirements for the restriction of multiple similar businesses within close proximity, as long as businesses meet the required development standards. Home value is determined by several factors, including rates, market conditions, and condition of properties. Home value is subjective, and no evidence has been provided to staff that would support a conclusion that implementation of the proposed project would have a significant impact on these values. Staff believes the requested zone change from the existing A1 limited agriculture to C2 PD general commercial precise development combining district would correct the current inconsistency between the existing zoning for intended agricultural use and the specific plan designation intended for commercial use. The surrounding area and outlying vicinity, specifically south and southwest of the project site, are currently developed and/or zoned for projects of similar type and intensity. Furthermore, the anticipated increase in land use intensity is addressed by the addition of the precise development combining district, which requires any further development proposals on the project site to undergo discretionary review and evaluation to ensure continued compatibility with the zoning ordinance and specific plan. Based on the foregoing evaluation, staff concludes the request sufficiently demonstrates compliance with the necessary findings and therefore advises your commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors enact ordinance and adopt a resolution approving the zone change as requested, approve precise development plans subject to the revised recommended conditions of approval, and adopt suggested findings as set forth in the attached revised draft resolution. This concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there any member of the public who would like to come forward and speak on this item? Please move to the front. Please state your name for the record. And we'll be monitoring 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm back. Again, my name is Brian Reniger. The only thing I have to say, are you nuts? Really? You're gonna put a gas station with truck stops 3 miles from one on Highway 43. You have another gas station going in at Stockdale and Nord. You have 2 more gas stations at Heath and Stockdale. You have 3 gas stations at Rosedale and Allen. Why do you need one in the middle? Explain that. There's no need for it out there. And if you think that that project is not going to interrupt the daily lives of the people who live there, you are out of touch. Especially if you put in truck lanes. I'm an ex-truck driver, and I know what those trucks cause. Now, I'm assuming there are truck lanes or truck gas stations going in. Is that what those ones that are separate from the rest of it is? Is that what those are? Yeah, right there in the front. I'm not sure, I can't really see that, but Rosedale, is that Rosedale Highway in the bottom?
Brian, electric vehicle charging.
Oh, is that Chargers? Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't know that's what it was. But no, this cannot happen. You cannot put this gas station right in the middle of all these other gas stations. It's pointless, and it's not necessary. Ask yourself why. And if you think that won't turn down the property value of your home, would you buy a house there with that right next door to you? Would you? The answer is no, you wouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you. And Elena, one quick second. I'm going to let the applicant speak because I did forget to do that. So that is my apologies. If anyone here from the applicant would please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Nadeem Sarkis. I am the applicant. I'm the owner of the land. I acquired this land in February of 2013, knowing that it is designed to be commercial. Right now, it's just a dirt, blowing a lot of wind. Whenever there's wind, all the neighbor complains of the dust and the tumbleweeds, and they keep sending violation to me to clean it even before something starts. So it is time now to develop this land. My project is gonna bring a lot of opportunity in this area. We're gonna have job opportunities from everyone, from entry level to management level. We're gonna have at least 9 of these EV charging stations. There is nothing exists on Rosedale. The nearest will be either at Casco area or down at Stockdale and Buena Vista, which are about 5-6 miles. So if anybody live in this area need it, he's gonna have it immediately next to him. We are planning to have the best area and best construction in this area. We can meet more than the standard before we put this. Plus the fact, having this project right now, all what the county is getting some property tax on a vacant land. Once this project is done, it's gonna improve the tax for the county. And this give more opportunity for other public services because of these increased taxes. So it's not just better for the community, it's better for everyone. We can improve the streets on Rosedale and North as part of the requirements. So right now, instead of having a stop sign with a lot of accidents, it will not exist anymore. Some of the neighbors complained, they see young kids coming and dealing with some bad stuff in the property. This will not be there anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, please come forward and state your name for the record.
Thank you. Again, my name is Elena Ruskalgel. I live on Stagecoach. This proposed land is surrounded by dust to the north, to the east, and to the south. Developing it with a small patch of concrete will not improve the dust. It will not improve the tumbleweeds. We love the dust and tumbleweeds. That's why we live in the country. That's why we invested in our property values. We didn't buy land to sit on it and make money. We bought land to raise our children, to ride our horses, to walk our 4-H lambs and our FFA goats. These children are future farmers. They don't want concrete. We don't want bright lights of a 24/7 gas station. We don't want people parked and wandering around where their EV is charging. We don't want the thefts of people stealing the copper from the EV charging. We don't want the smell of fast food. We don't want the smell of fuel. We already have water problems in this area. My husband is on the water board. He will attest to that. We need clean water. We need people away. You go to the west, there's a gas station. You go to the south, there's a gas station. The point of building a gas station in an area is to improve convenience and for people who want that nearby. We don't want it, and it is inconvenient. Please do not do this to our homes. This is a serious violation of our rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello. My name is Anita Cottle, and I live on Carriage Street. The back of my property is on Nord Avenue, and this project would directly impact the reason I and most of my neighbors moved to this location. In 2017, I bought my house to live in a more rural community, get away from the noise and the lights. And like most of my neighbors, we own horses and raise 4-H animals. Our acre lots are zoned for horses, livestock, and is in a community based on this lifestyle. The surrounding parcels of property along Nord Avenue and Rosedale Highway are agricultural parcels with almond orchards and row crops. This part of Bakersfield is still considered the country. Not only does this proposal directly compromise the quiet country and low traffic benefits in our community, but it is a redundant service. Currently, we have gas stations and a fast food diner 3 miles west on the corner of Rosedale and Enos. There's also a new commercial complex 4 miles away with a gas station, several fast food diners, and restaurants on the corner of Stockdale Highway, the new Highway 58 and Heath Road. In addition to the proposal not being beneficial to the surrounding community, it also provides little benefits for the surrounding traffic and travelers. Since I moved into my house, traffic patterns have significantly changed. Stockdale Highway has now become the new Highway 58, which connects I-5 to the West Side Parkway through to Tehachapi. Since this change, there is no longer any big rigs and significantly less cars traveling down Rosedale past Nord. This traffic pattern changed further proves that the point of a gas station, convenience store, and fast food options at this location is not wanted or necessary. Lastly, I urge you to consider the safety of our neighborhood. The intersection of Nord and Rosedale has had 5 fatalities since I have moved there in 2017. If the proposed zoning change is approved, it will cause more congestion and more traffic in an already dangerous intersection. The other item, we just heard about a wedding venue, the concern for noise. It is the same walking distance from my house, and you're going to allow or propose a gas station that would be open from 5 a.m. to midnight. The noise and the lights that it's going to create for this community that we live in is just going to increase. I hope that the commission does not approve this request and keeps it agriculture as it is currently. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Hi, my name is John Galgul. I live on Stagecoach. I'm coming to you on behalf of Vice President of the Mustang Mutual Water Company, which is the water company that serves the neighborhood just northwest, or on the west side of Nord. So currently, we have been under the order of the State Water Resources Control Board to mitigate our community well 123 TCP. And in order to do that, we are actually in the process of purchasing the lot just west of Nord Avenue across from the gas station. So in order for us to mitigate, we actually have to drill a new well, and that is the only lot available in our neighborhood. Adding a gas station across the street with potential fuel contamination and an open sump draining whatever's in the parking lot into that sump will potentially contaminate our well and neighboring wells in the area. There are a lot of small domestic wells in that area, and that is a big issue. One of the other big issues is by the time we're done drilling our well and putting in our treatment facility, our community will have spent almost $3 million. $1 million of that will come out of the community members' pockets. $2 million of that was relatively funded by lawsuits. Until now, we have not had to do, we've had to do multiple studies. We've been working with Vaughn Water. We've been working with other mutuals to see how they are participating in mitigating that contamination. Right now, we only have one contaminant. There's others in the area that have nitrites and nitrate that they're also having to mitigate, which is an additional expense to our neighborhood. Adding that in a yearly expense is close to $100,000 for our community just to have the equipment and the monitoring and also the maintenance of those facilities. So coming to you on our behalf, that is the only lot in our neighborhood that is actually opened. And our current well is actually on the west side of Carriage, 2 houses up on the north side of Rosedale. So where we're actually pulling our water from now is not even that much further away than where we're gonna be. So having another contamination source potentially could contaminate our future well and the neighboring people around it, especially if there's an open sump and that fuel from the ground is draining into that open sump, as well as whatever fuel that leaks in the ground whenever tanks do leak. They do happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Becky Riccomini. I live on Nord, just north of the property that is in question. And we've been there for 20 years, and we bought out there because it's a rural area. You can have your horses, you can have your animals, and it's quiet. We got out, I moved from Schellebarger, where that was a fiasco. When they tried to annex that area, they built a community at the end of there, ended up putting a fence at the end of Schellebarger to separate the communities. Anyways, this is a terrible idea. We got the private wells, we're on our own well, we get contamination from that. We're screwed. Vaughn Water is not out there, for one. They've been having issues with the electrical infrastructure out there, for another. And he's talking about the tumbleweeds. All he's got to do is disc it up twice a year. Our house is the one that gets hammered every year because he does not maintain it. And if you want to see pictures, I've got pictures of what happens to when he doesn't maintain his property. It's just a fiasco. It's not needed. It's not wanted. We got gas stations everywhere. And it'll completely destroy the aesthetics of that area. It's just a bad idea. Terrible idea. Do you want to see these pictures?
You're welcome to provide them to the clerk.
He needs to maintain his lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker?
My name is Stacy Akery. I actually own a home on Buckboard and I own a home on Nord. I've been on Buckboard for 25 years, but I was raised on Nord all my life. I truly believe this will be horrible for our rural community. We ride our horses out there. My granddaughter, we ride all around there. Like they said, our wells are all, can be contaminated. The Rosedale and Nord is a horrible intersection. There's accidents monthly. There's been fatalities. They finally put in a flashing stoplight because people run those stoplights all the time. It's just, Nord Road is used as a highway. It's a 55 mile an hour. We just don't need the chaos out there. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, Jean Renninger again. One thing I forgot to bring up with the last one, but it's even more pertinent to this one, is the possible influx of additional crime. We already have vandalism, vehicles broken into, vehicles stolen from the neighborhood. So they're gonna have direct access to buckboard and, yeah, be able to just go around. We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't need it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public that would like to make a comment, please come forward.
Sorry, Brian Reiniger again. Just one last comment. When I got the county to finally put in those flashing red stop signs that were replaced, we finally got them to put it in. The accidents have pretty much come to a halt. So this guy wants to put in a stoplight or a full-size light. But we got the stoplights put in, and it's pretty much stopped the accidents at that corner, because now you can see the stop sign. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Scott Quintana. I'm with LAV Pinnacle. I'm not going to attempt to address all of the issues. What I can attempt to address here are a couple of the items. Starting first with the drinking water well discussion. I would say that I think that within the staff report, it made it very clear that the standards of containment, lighting standards, traffic standards are being held responsible to the developer. And while if we're going to have a conversation, I suppose, about the runoff contaminant potential situation, I would at least defend the position from the standpoint of, from a freshwater well, when you're talking about contamination, you're having to have contamination exposed to the freshwater basin. And if you're drilling a freshwater well, technically speaking, the contamination would be behind closed pipe. And the well would be cased down to the casing point at the top of fresh water, and then that water would be produced through the closed well system. Therefore, it's extremely unlikely through just permeability capability and hydrostatic pressure that any sort of contamination would even have the opportunity to inject itself into the freshwater basin simply because of the fact that it's behind closed pipes. So from the water well standpoint, I'm not sure I understand the science. From the traffic standpoint, I do empathize with the idea of the danger of traffic when it comes to the stop sign and then the incremental improvement to the flashing stop sign. I would argue that I believe we have a traffic study that has been done on multiple occasions in which the traffic mitigation requirement is a full-blown stop light for the intersection, which I think at this point, from a traffic engineering standpoint, you would have to argue is an improvement to the traffic mitigation situation on the site. So those are my two positions, or at least my two comments. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public that would like to come forward? You're welcome to come forward. Please state your name again for the record.
I'm Becky Riccomini. I've got a question. This is a horse area. Why are they not putting bridle paths instead of bike paths out there where we can ride our horses? Everybody out there has horses, cattle, sheep, pigs, goats, chickens. That's just the nature of the beast. And the E2 in that area, a state residential, I'm sorry, it should stay a state residential. That way everybody can have the same. That's what we went out there for. We didn't come out there for gas stations and shopping centers and all that. We don't need it.
Thank you.
And the speed limit needs to be reduced on Nord.
Thank you. You're welcome to come forward. State your name again for the record.
My name is Anita Cottle, and the venue that was before us, the wedding venue, I did not receive a letter for that. I live on Carriage Street. I am just concerned, have we sent letters to adjacent properties that are east of this proposal that have sheep and animals on their property? How big of a radius do you send these type of planning commission letters to? Because this directly impacts not just the community that I'm in, that's on Carriage Street, but also to the east that has livestock as well. And I'm just not sure, because if I didn't receive for the wedding venue a letter, how far of a radius do you send these to let people know what's being proposed?
Thank you so much. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and bring it back to the commissioners for any questions, comments, or concerns. And I think if staff want to address any of the questions related to the property notices, that would be great.
Sure. Chairman Skidmore, I'd be happy to. Regarding the notification, the standard requirement is that it is published in the appropriate newspaper of local circulation, and then notices are mailed typically either 500 or 1,000 feet, depending on the size of the parcel. That has been something that has been considered by the Board of Supervisors, and the board has been clear in terms of that's what they felt the appropriate notification would be. As a reminder, a mailing costs a lot of money, so we have a lot of applicants. This one happens to be a larger development, but let's say we have a resident that wants a fence height modification. And if they have to spend the amount to circulate an entire neighborhood where we've gone through that, the cost for mailing become so cost prohibitive that it actually hinders the ability for residents in general to process some of their requests. Again, this one's a little bit different because it's a commercial center, but the notification requirements need to be the same regardless of the type of project that we have. And so the board has made a determination that they believe, because of the circulation of the paper and because of the required notices, word of mouth usually does spread. So most parties that are interested do hear about the required or the requested action and do participate in the public hearing process. Regarding the project in general, if we could get the general plan circulation map, I just want to provide your commission with some overall background, a little bit clarification based on some of the comments as part of your deliberations today. So as we can see by just because of the comments, it's important that your commission realize that the project is designated for commercial use. In that area in green is an entire commercial corner. So for a long, long time, it has been designated that this property is going to be developed for a commercial use. The property, yes, is zoned A1, which is it's a holding zone. You know, back when the designations were established, there wasn't any development that was marching out to this western area as much. So at the time, it was determined that it would remain limited agriculture. Again, limited ag is not commercial ag either, but it's always been the thought that this project site in and of itself would be designated for some commercial use. We have so happened that we have an applicant now that has purchased a piece of land that has been designated with that commercial designation and is now asking for the necessary zone changes to implement a proposed project. A lot of the comment was specifically, we had some comments that talked about and expressed some concerns about a retail center and a fast food restaurant, but a lot of the comments specifically related to a gas station. Your commission is considering a commercial corner. You're not considering one specific use. And generally speaking, it has been the policy not to necessarily meddle with market conditions. An applicant determines generally what type of business they believe will or will not be successful. And yes, your commission can absolutely consider that as terms of part of the uses, but that's a little bit of a slippery slope if we get down, well, we have one here, it's not needed. Usually the market conditions kind of help dictate some of that. Gas stations in general have evolved a lot over the history in the last 10 years. A lot of gas stations now are little mini markets at some degree. They have food that comes in there. Yes, they are utilized for filling and gassing up their cars, but they are really, and they've always been considered a neighborhood service. That's why they're even allowed in a C1 zone classification. While the applicant here is requesting a C2 zone, a gas station is a by right use within a C1 zone as well. Clearly this project applicant has looked at this corner and is proposing a number of things. The EV charges station is a testament to the fact that will gas stations be around for the long term? There's a lot of questions regarding that, but this project does propose a balance in terms of neighborhood uses. The gas station is a component of it, yes, but they have included EV charging stations and other components of the project that are very typical and necessary within neighborhood residential areas. The only comments I'd like to just kind of summarize for you as well is we do not have any evidence at this time that given the permitting requirements for tanks or anything along those lines, that we have a concern or a thought that there could be a potential leak into any of the groundwater or anything along those lines. In terms of traffic, again, you have heard this comment a lot when it comes to Western Rosedale. Western Rosedale and a lot of residents that have moved out to Western Rosedale wanted and chose that lifestyle because it was a little more rural, and that is something that they were excited about and that they prefer. With that being said, there's always been a plan or a thought that development would occur as more and more requirements are needed for population and housing and everything along those lines. And so even if this wasn't going to be a commercial center, as you can see, it's all designated as state residential. So those are single-family homes with no farming necessary that are on some of those as well. So the overall notion that it would be farmland forever, that's just not the reality of all of Western Rosedale. It has always been identified as potential development would occur when and if the time arose and, the market dictated that. Regarding traffic, again, this is kind of a similar comment, and you heard a lot of concerns regarding safety when it comes to the streets. And yes, in a rural area, most of the roads are not built to the full right-of-way. They're not built to the full standards, and therefore any traffic on those roads are a little bit more dangerous potentially just simply because they're not built to county standards. They're built as a rural road, and they get built to that full size when the development occurs to expand the right-of-ways, build the curb gutter sidewalks or other improvements that are required. So regarding the concerns associated with traffic, I would just note that typically as development occurs and the roadway gets expanded to its appropriate length, safety becomes a little bit better, just simply because now there are sidewalks and there are other infrastructure in place that help address that. Again, that may or may not be what residents that purchased their land 15, 25 years ago envisioned, but just generally that is the typical development process when it comes to the construction of roadways and things along those lines. The only comment I would leave to Public Works is just because I heard some comments specifically regarding a traffic light. I know a full traffic study was done for this particular project, and all of the required measures necessary were identified, have been incorporated. But I would like Public Works to confirm one way or the other whether or not this project did require any construction or fair share for a traffic signal located at Rosedale Highway and Nord. I want to make sure that is clear for everybody one way or the other before your commission goes through any of your discussions.
Great, thank you. Can Public Works please come forward?
Paul Candelaria, Public Works. Madam Chair, Commissioners. The traffic study showed that actually traffic warrants were not met. However, under the current traffic impact fee, the county is looking at putting a signal at that intersection. So that's just to be clarified by what you were asking for.
Thank you. So for just a final clarification, this project in and of itself would not be required to build a traffic signal. However, it would be required to pay its traffic impact fees that all projects would have to pay within metropolitan Bakersfield. And then at some point, the county may come in and construct a traffic signal, but it would not be required as part of any day one operations. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any questions for Public Works from the commissioners? Nothing? You guys are being easy tonight. Can you talk to me a little bit about the traffic impact study? Sorry, right before you got ready to sit down. Yeah, I'll take one for the team. Can you talk to me a little bit about the traffic impact study? Again, I find it interesting that this also does not, meet the criteria for what you were speaking about. Can you talk a little bit more in detail about that?
Well, the actual traffic engineer who did it should actually speak to that. All I know is that they have to follow criteria by the MUTCD, and there are certain warrants. There's peak hour, there's, I forget, pedestrian. There's like 9 different warrants that have to be met. And in all honesty, the MUTCD is more of a suggestion. It's not a requirement that this happen. So even if it did say a traffic signal is required, it's something that we could say, yes, you have to pay your fair share towards. But like I said, the MUTCD in itself says it's more of a suggestion than it is a requirement to have any businesses come in and build something, a facility of such sort. And like I said, it is on our Metropolitan Bakersfield City TIF, and it is stated to be funded to be a traffic signal there. And once again, Rosedale Highway is an arterial, and arterial, it should be 6 lanes. Even when Caltrans owned it, it was considered an arterial. It's just that businesses have not gone out there. And so that's why it's still kind of a rural area as it is. They had stated earlier that when Stockdale Highway was not built, or the West Side Parkway, Rosedale Highway was heavily traveled by semi-trucks. So luckily, when the West Side Parkway was completed, most of that traffic was diverted to that area. So, I mean, so the traffic engineer who usually does the study has to abide by all those rules. So they should be able to answer that better than me.
Does the traffic impact study also identify if you need to pave, arterial roadways or any of that type of?
Yes, that'll be part of their mitigation measures. So if you look at the site plan, they are dedicating their frontage of the area, and they are also building it to an expanded intersection. And both Nord and Rosedale are arterial highways based on the circulation element.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for him? Sorry. Nope, okay, you're good. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Madam Chair, may I say one thing, 30 seconds, I promise, one thing.
The only thing is public hearing is closed, so is it a question?
No, it's just something I just need to say
Then
real quick.
then we can't listen to it because the public hearing is closed unless any commissioners have open to hearing him. Any concerns? You good? You can go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm not naive enough to know, none of us are naive enough to know that development is not coming towards us. We know that, okay? We know that. But a gas station right next to our water well? No, I'm sorry. Because we are already under state law, something about the state, because we have cancer-causing agent in our water. And you're gonna tell me that A gas station's water is not gonna seep into ours. How did the other stuff get into our water well? Come on, just, we're not naive enough to know that construction's not coming our way.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff on the project? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'm making a motion to approve staff recommendations as read.
We have a motion and a second.
Two ayes, one no, two absent.
So to provide some clarification regarding what that means, when we only have 3 members of the commission that is here, normal circumstances are that you need 3 affirmative votes for any action to become final. However, a number of years ago, it was determined and the bylaws of the Planning Commission were revised to where if you have only 3 individuals and this is a recommendation, that recommendation can move forward to Board of Supervisors with that consideration, and then staff will both identify that it was not unanimous and that the recommendation was 2 in yes and 1 opposed to the overall request. So again, just in case anyone had any specific questions, because normally you need at least 3 affirmative votes to have any action move forward. The bylaws were changed a number of years ago to ensure that development or businesses or requests can continue to move forward through the process when we only have 3 commissioners. So this item is not final by your commission. It will require Board of Supervisors final consideration. We will provide a hearing notice that outlines the summary of the vote that occurred tonight, and the staff report will be presented as 2 in favor and 1 opposed to the overall request. Again, hearing notices will go out. If anybody did not get a hearing notice and they would like to get a hearing notice, they can go to staff, myself or my staff over on the other side of the table, and we can absolutely take their name, and then we will ensure that they receive a written hearing notice when this item is considered by the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And just for the record, there are no right to appeals for these projects because they are recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. So we're on to item H, adjournment. The next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for December 12th, 2024. Can I entertain a motion? A motion
Second?
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.